And we are live.
Thank you,
Which,
Samir.
how are you?
I'm doing very well. Just feels like a celebrity going live and all that right now, right?
Yes, yes, it is with you, right?
How are you doing? How's the holiday, Samir?
Lovely, man. How has it been for you?
Very good.
Are
I'm going to be stay put in Dubai. I think the
You're on a
family.
long holiday. Are you on a long holiday right now?
I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this right now so much because I think the burnout was so high, and I
Hmm.
had to take this time off, and I had to reconnect back with the only person important to me, which is my daughter, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, now I feed her dinner in the evening, so I've got so much time on my hand that there's a lot that's going on. But yeah, I love this break, and I'm enjoying this break. But it's going to be soon over. But I hope not as well. But we all have to make sure the lights are turned on and hope, right? So yeah, we got to do what we got to do.
I want to talk about so many things, but I'm going to touch upon what we just talked about right now, which I
Right,
think is quite important. Burnout. Uh,
right.
how does one hit burnout?
So see, I've been asking this question to myself, and one thing that came up when I was doing this reflection is wonder how does one burn out, right? And I think it is very simple. As a professional, you show up in a lot many places in the right fashion. You even dress up, you even show up, you have the conversation, but you don't show up for the family. And when that family sees you as that absence, that's when I realized that I am burning out in a lot many ways, that I'm not able to balance the life. I mean, we do this for whom? For ourselves and our family, and we do this for them. And if you don't show up for them, and you're showing up everywhere else but for the family, that's when I switched and I said, hey, listen, I think I got to do this the right way. And that's where I called myself as burnout. My burnout is not fatigue, my burnout is not tired, my burnout is not being brain dead. I think somehow my DNA, I think I've got some energy coming from somewhere, or I don't know if it's the coffee, but I keep going. But for me, the burnout is, am I showing up right for everybody? Am I doing this? And in that burnout, I also realized that I wasn't giving my 100% to my previous employer. And that's when I stopped and says, I need to do this differently.
Interesting. And I think we have some of your fans show up already. We have Shah Rukh Khan at Jamaica. All right. So, um, how and you're going to go into the next chapter of your life very soon, right?
Yeah.
What are you putting as guardrails in place so that burnout doesn't happen anymore? Apart from you spending time with your family, which I know you will prioritize from now onwards, but is there anything else that you or the people who are listening to should consider so that they don't hit burnout? Because burnout can mean different things for different people.
Yeah.
Uh, so, what guardrails are you putting for yourself first, and what do you think others should be doing for themselves?
Cliche, Samir, but I think I picked this up from one of our conversations or one of the books that you've written. Is I'm not going to carry everybody's water. I need to carry my water, or I need to carry what I think I need to do. Because in my previous experiences, I have been carrying everybody's water as if it's my baggage or it's my thing to do. And I believe in a lot of spirituality as well, and this has been a message that I've been getting is, uh, stop being a, a baggage carrier for everybody, not just for professionally but even personally as well. Now, if something goes wrong in somebody else's life, in family as well, I try to internalize that, hey, wish I could do something for them, and I try carry that baggage as well. So simply, I think one thing that I want to put from a professional perspective and personal perspective is, I got to carry what I can carry, and I can't carry everybody's water. So thank you so much for introducing me to that concept as well when you and I had a conversation about it as well. But I think that has come in very clearly, that I can't do everybody's job. I got to do my job, and I got to show up like amazingly well at that and help. No doubts about it. Be empathetic, sympathetic. All of that will happen, but I'll have to showcase that, hey, you listen, you got to carry your own water as well. I can't carry this for you all the way up.
Interesting. Have you heard of this framework called jobs to be done?
Yeah.
You're familiar with it. So, what
Yes.
is what is the JTD or jobs to be done of Javeed?
Oh, I got to make sure that the 8 9 hours that I got to show up professionally, and it's no longer reactive but very proactive ways of showing up from now on. In recruitment, we are always very reactive in terms of what we do, how we do, but that's going to change, and I'm going to show up proactively to not just look at how talent needs to be attracted, but how this can come into an organization with a very good career focus and not just a leaking bucket. Um, Most of us as TA leaders only look at attraction as, hey, I got to fill this job. My playbook is going to change. I'm going to look at when I fill a job, how can this or that person can stay in the organization for at least 2 to 3 years and have a career. That's my change in mentality of jobs to be done. Jobs to be done. Again, I think very clearly there will be transactions for sure. There's no doubts about it. But I think jobs to be done is also start looking at now navigating my daughter's thinking process in terms of how she's going to look at herself, because what's just happening is the way I behaved at home and carrying everybody's water, I see that happening with her as well. So I need to start training her to look at like no, I think you got to do what you got to do, and I don't think you should take everybody's water with you. So the two jobs to be done is these two things that I want to focus on. I don't want to plan long term, Samir, because the way things are changing with the disruption happening in our professional life is, I don't think a 2 3 year plan is going to stick anymore. I think it's going to be a very quarterly plan going forward for me. But yeah, these are the jobs to be done while I'm working on all the other things to put in perspective right now.
Interesting. By the way, you threw me completely off script. My usual standard way is to actually start off our discussions pulling up a code that you have mentioned and
Yeah.
then uh, go in from there. But I loved how you actually spoke about family, your daughter, and who you are being, etc. So, uh, a quick quote from you is leadership is about being present and creating spaces where people feel seen, supported, and safe to grow. Uh, would you want to unpack that a little bit and share with
Yeah.
us how this all fits in with everything that you've shared so far?
Nobody, like, I don't think there's anybody in this world who wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I'll go fail today, or I don't want to do what I want to do, or I'm just going to get up and do. There is nobody that. Everybody has a certain amount of an hunger to do well, to showcase well, to grow, and so on and so forth. My thought process as a leader is as simple: understand that hunger and let them shine. That's how I've been always managing my teams, and that's how my managers have brought me up through my career as well. Is they would throw things at me and not tell me how to do it. They would just tell me a problem statement and says, "Go look at a best way to fix it, and come back and tell us it's done or not done." So for me, that empowerment to my team had become very, very important, because I understand every individual brings a little bit of um, talent in them, right? Now, what happens is, if I don't let them showcase and shine that talent, then what happens is I'm creating a team which is like me, operates like me, thinks like me, behaves like me, and all of that. But I don't get a diversity in the team that I want. So I always have said to my team couple of things. Never be afraid to upward delegate to me. You and I will have a good conversation about it and see how we can solve the problem. Never apologize for having a personal life, and never be able to come back and say, sorry, I could not do it. That, don't worry. I think we all will not be able to do everything. So let's create that safe ecosystem for us to all be professionals. I'll give you one example. When COVID hit, right? And everybody was like, how do we work from home? My team was one of the best teams to work from home. We designed a way how we showcased, how we bought ourselves up every morning to have a huddle. And then we just said, okay, go do what you need to do, and let's come back and debrief at the end of the day. And nowhere in between, we kept pestering each other. What are you doing? Where are you? What are you up to? No, we had a conversation in the morning. You go back and do it. come back in the evening, tell me how things are. And in the huddles, we only used to ask ourselves a question: do you need any help from me? Is there any bottleneck that you need me to solve? I know rest you can manage. That's been my leadership, is to let these things happen. And I'm telling you, when you let that happen, you will see so much more getting done, right? I'm like, one, just because you're trusting somebody saying you can go do it, that person will take at least two or three extra initiatives to get that job done really well. That's all you need. I mean, I don't think any leader needs anything more than that, is for them to personalize, hyper personalize, and bring the best out of it. So that's always been the way leadership is. Now, when we used to have team meetings, right? Say somebody missed a team meeting, and they used to call me. Most of the leaders would say, where are you? Why are you not on the meeting? My question would be, are you okay? Right? That's it. Give them that space, empower them, create that safe space for them to win, and you will see a magic happening when the team comes together. That's all a leader needs to do. I don't think a leader needs to teach anybody how to do their job. I'm sure they bring their personal identity, but if the leader cannot create that safe ecosystem or a safe environment, then I think teams kind of suffer at the back end. They won't might not tell you, because everybody needs a job, everybody needs to pay their bills, but they might not be 100% happy. I know everybody's son, daughter, husband, family, mother, father, everything. And genuinely, I take interest in knowing about it. It's just not, oh, I just want to know about you kind of a thing. That's how it works. That's why I say what I say with my leadership style.
Your leadership style, if you had to attach a adjective, a single word adjective to describe your leadership style, what would you call it?
Hmm.
What kind of a leader are you? I have one, but I want to hear yours.
I think I'm democratic and empowering. That's it. I mean, those are the two things. I'm never a
Mhm.
dictator, or never say I have to do it this way. Yeah, there have been times where I said, just do it, guys. But most of the times, it's more democratic and empowering.
When you were speaking to me right now, answering these, discussing and sharing, the adjective that came to me was a co-creating leader.
Hmm. 100%. I think co-creation is a part of me, right? And professionally, sometimes there's a topic which we all love called diversity and inclusion.
Hmm.
90% of the times that topic has become an HR owned topic. I, for one, start with a statement saying, no, we've got to co create this topic between everybody in the organization. Only then this is going to work, right? So that co creation is part of me. I don't say this is how we do it. We say, how can we get to the top of the mountain together? How can we get to a certain KPI together? That's how I've always worked, Samir. So co-creation for sure, but for me it's more become like a part of me than actually it's an extra playbook kind of a thing. No, it's everything. Even today when I'm doing work with Tidy, and the co-founders say this, and I'm like, okay guys, but how do we do this together? How do we showcase this together to the market, not just as one product or one SQF, but how do we do this together? So for me, it is co-creation is, that's when you find a belonging. So I leave it at that. So that's where I find that to come and belong to a certain activity, transaction, or anything for that matter.
Alpana's given you one which says inclusive leadership. So that's what she's calling your style of leadership. And I think we can get the audience to share more of what they think is your style of leadership listening to. Michelle says, I agree, brother. We need to carry our own water so we can replenish those around us. Jason
Absolutely.
has a question for you. Can a
Yeah.
talent ecosystem truly be plug and play?
Okay. Yes and no. The reason I say yes and no, as a talent ecosystem for a certain amount, again, like, we've got to think that one size does not fit all, because in the talent ecosystem, we've got a pyramid, and we've got layers, 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 layers until you reach the top of the pyramid. So plug and play might be able to happen at the very bottom of the pyramid, But as you keep going up, your plug and play cannot become, oh, I'm just going to do this and it'll get done. No, your strategies will have to change, and your playbooks and your operating models will have to change. So it just can't be a plug and play. So that's how it is. Like everybody says, Javed, what is the process? And I'm like, I don't know. We've got to work on it. We've got to see what we want to do and then build. At one point of time, I used to have 8 operating models for one organization. Some
Mm.
people have one operating model for the entire organization, which might not be the right way. So yes and no. Plug and play might work in certain cases and certain transactions, but not through the entire process of it.
How do you how do you define what is a talent ecosystem? So what is the definition of that whole
So talent,
terminology?
talent ecosystem is, I think, pretty much. Um, so let me put it down, right. So you've got organizations, its values and principles, or its employer value proposition. That's one part. The second part is the team which is executing the talent strategy. That's the second part. The HR partners who will then handhold the employee while they onboard and join is the third part. The hiring managers, the interviewers are going to be the fourth part. And I think the leadership overall to make sure that the culture is driven correctly is the fifth part. So about 5 parts to an ecosystem that makes a talent ecosystem. It is no longer just the HR, it has to be co-created by all of these stakeholders. That's when an ecosystem comes to play.
And and what are organizations not doing correctly right now, in your view?
I don't think anybody is doing anything wrong, Samir. So see, and everybody has their wins through the process that they are in right now. But I think what people forget is a playbook of recruiting that worked 5 years back or 10 years back might not work today, because by 2030 you're going to have at least 6 generations of workforce working in the same organization. Now, that playbook has to evolve immediately rather than using the same playbook that we've had for the last 5, 6 years or 10 years in that matter. What's the playbook? We'll source, we will open the requisition, we will let the applications flow in, we'll do 2 or 3 interviews, we'll send the offer out, we'll do an offer follow up, and we'll send an onboarding mail or an onboarding process. Very high level, but very high 7 steps, right? This playbook is not going to work anymore. This playbook is not personalized or hyper personalized. This playbook need the playbook that we might need in the future is very hyper personalized. Markets are different, organizations are different. They might be able to pull through a certain up and down on this playbook. But if I have to say what needs to change, and I think the way we look at a candidate needs to change, because yes, we might be in an employer market, but soon that might change. It might become an employee driven market. And when you have an employee driven market versus what we are right now, how do you soon quickly adapt? So those things should now start to be a part of your playbook before it becomes an issue, right? So maybe that's how we're looking at. I used to have a manager, not manager, but my super boss, right? And this is, I'm talking 2012, 13, 2011, 12. And he used to say, how many offers did you get out? I said, 700 offers went out. He's like, what? You missed your target? I'm like, yeah, because we didn't get enough Java people. And he would say, Javed, go stand at outside the road and you shout Java, there'll be a line of people coming in. I said, boss, that's your time. It doesn't work like this. Right? you know so that's the thinking mechanism of old school managers who
Hmm.
think that what worked for them should continue working, or it's working like that. But things are evolving and changing so quickly that we've got to do some education to them as well, and to say why you're doing what you're doing.
And what is the reason for this dramatic shift in the way talent is being acquired, or uh, it's going to be an employee driven market rather than employee driven market? What do you think? Is it AI, or is it the generation that we are living in, where the kids are more tuned in what they want in life, or what is it that is uh, creating this massive shift in organizations at this point of time, according to you?
I don't think When you look at it from a very different lens, you might be able to see it correctly. You're living in a paradox, or there is a paradox that's happening right now. So nothing is wrong, nothing is correct, right? There's just the way you need to look at it. So some organizations are focused on behavioral ways of hiring people. Some peoples are focused on very skill based. Some peoples are focused on fungibility, that I'll hire one person, might be able to do two jobs, right? So a lot of organizations are looking at it in a very different way. And the paradox is, I've got thousands and thousands of candidates who apply for my job, but I don't have the right candidate to interview or take it to an offer process. That is the paradox we are in. How do you go to the right audience for the right job and then have them apply in the right way? This way, we'll be able to solve a lot of problems. This is, I think, where the problem is. Yes, tech is disrupting it, it's making it easy for desperate application to happen. I think anybody in Dubai would agree by saying when they open a job, in about a matter of time, they reach about close to 500 to 1,000 applications. Now, how much of relevance that have, nobody knows, because the recruiters are not able to sift through every single resume and all of that right now. So the paradox, that is the skills paradox, is what I call it, is what do you need? Do you need skills? Do you need behaviors? Do you need attitude? First, design that correctly, what you need, and then go to the market in terms of finding the right talent. Don't go by, again, like I said, in the olden times, we open a job requisition for a full stack developer. We knew that we will get full stack developers. Today, you might even have somebody who's done a low code, no code, apply for a full stack as well. So there is a paradox there, right? That's where you need to navigate this market a little more better for you to get what you need to do. I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just that they need to be looking at the attraction a little more differently through a very different lens right now.
Interesting. So what you're talking about is talent strategy. Have the right kind of strategy in place. My next question, or what I'm curious about, is what is a talent strategy that sounds good on paper but fails in reality?
uh, there's quite a few of them actually, right? I'll give you, and this is something that I lived through, right? And I'll give you an example. We put a strategy together to go ahead and attract X thousand Saudi nationals. Okay. But when we went to the market, we didn't get the kind of response we wanted to get. So, in on paper, the strategy looked very nice, that we'll go to X, Y, Z universities, we'll go to this, we'll go to that, we'll go to this. But we never forgot, or we forgot whether, hey, is my brand or my employee value proposition is attractive to the audience that I'm attracting right now. So on
Hmm.
paper, the talent strategy looked amazing because we just put a strategy to attract, but we didn't try to make it a 360 in terms of, will this attraction need a little bit of marketing, branding, go to market, and then start the attraction process. So when we do this strategies, we quickly say, what do we want? We go into the market, put the whole thing together and hire. But you need to look at it in a very different angle these days, from a nationalization perspective. Like, for example, emiratization, that's one of the talked topics in our industry at this point of time, right? That segment of audience does not live on LinkedIn. So what is the point putting the job on LinkedIn emiratization only, or emiratization only? You've got to look at that strategy differently on how do you reach out. How did I reach out? I went to Majlises to talk about KPMG and the jobs that they had, right? We went to a company called ADGMA, which is Abu Dhabi, and we said, hey, this is what we want to do, and how can you bring the talent in? We've got to have the partnership. And this is old story, but what I'm trying to say is that you got to look at where you need to go and how you need to do your strategy. Cannot just be one part of the strategy which looks amazing on that PowerPoint slide, but it actually fails because you didn't do the thinking right.
And how do you train people to think right, especially for a job like yours, where
So mostly it's ideation. How do we do this? You get the entire team together and says, guys, we've got a problem, let's ideate on how to do it. And everybody brings a certain amount of recruitment experience or talent acquisition experience, right? And I use that in two different words because they are two different ball games altogether, recruitment and TA. And we ideate, we iterate, we say, okay, let's go ahead and do the first step, let's see what the response is, let's come back and iterate again and see what it can do again. And if it hits, then it's a win, let's record it and use it as a model. If it doesn't, then we need to redo the model. um, And I think that's how I've always been. Is the ideation for me has been the best part to do it. And ideation is not only with your team. I even ask the hiring managers and the interviewers, can you join this meeting for me and let's see what you've got a perspective. Trust me, Samir, when I say this, though I have been talent acquisition for about 20 years, I think there have been people who have taught me talent acquisition who were not talent acquisition. You got to think, because for us we think in a certain way. And I say this to my fellow recruiters and my fellow TA leaders is, when a job comes in, the first thinking is, oh, I don't think I can find it, or I don't think that's available in the market, right? I'll give you an example. I was working for a startup in Saudi. I was fifth employee, and the CTO and I were working together on it. He says, I need somebody to write this code on a language called Golang. I have never heard about Golang. And I'm like, Golang? I don't know where to go. Oh, first, let me learn Golang. So I went to YouTube and I searched YouTube and see what Golang is. And on that tutorial that was happening, or the class that was happening, there were three guys who were talking too much and asking too many questions. So I pinged them and I said, would you be interested in a job in Saudi, right? Out of nowhere, YouTube became my sourcing portal and not LinkedIn. So when you got to sit, and who told me to go and learn Golang is my CTO. If I would have said, boss, I don't think I can find, I'll use an agency, or I don't know what to do with it, he would have said, okay, I don't know whether I should believe you anymore for any other hiring that you will do for me right now, right? So it's like you got to get all thought process involved in the hiring that you do, and you co-create. That's the word again.
Yeah, I can see when even when you're saying ideation, co-creation is becoming the foundation of it. And uh, so Jason's asking you a question again over here. So can you
Yep.
define the right candidate? You know, I think this has become a tick box activity again. Jason is really onto you right now. Uh,
I love Jason anyways.
yes,
Jason, can you?
but this is very interesting. Yes, go ahead, answer. What do you think?
No, no, you finish. I want you to see that you're adding something to it. Go for it, and then we'll take the answer.
So my challenge is the same thing. You know, how do we define something as a right candidate? Because there's so many of them out there, and you're saying that a lot of people apply, but we don't get to sift through all the interviews. We don't get to identify all the candidates, and then we just pick the one that hits us. Is that the right candidate, the one that resonates with us, or are you looking for something more?
So you got to and this is going to answer both your question and Jason's question. So you got to look at it like this: what does every candidate have in common? Experience, right? I mean, if you're looking for a certain job, then if you're looking for candidates for that job, somebody who might be able to do that job, what they do have in common, every single one of them, is the experience that they have, who have worked on that job before and want to apply for a similar kind of a job with a little bit of a trajectory. So experience is the common denominator. Who is the right candidate for me? Who is able to tell what he or she has done experientially? No, I want to be able to see if the right candidate is able to tell that story correctly, of how that story of the past is going to look like in the future, and how's that going to fit the culture of my organization. That's my
Hmm.
right candidate. From a softer aspect of it, I look for hunger, attitude, smartness, pretty much, and the humbleness as well. These three qualities also are a part of any candidate that I look for when I do this, right? And for me, it is very important to ask a right candidate a reflection point of, if you would have looked at your experience in hindsight, what would have you changed? And I want that reflection to be free flowing rather than just being, oh, I don't think I'm going to change anything, right? For me, that means that person hasn't thought through the entire thing right now. So for me, the experience is one part, which is an entry point to the right thing. But is that candidate able to tell that story of their experience and into how that experience is going to look like in the future for the organization they are interviewing? For me, that's the right candidate. There is no right or wrong. There could be different ways of how you look at it. From an HR perspective, at least that you should what should be looking at it. And then technical skills will matter a little differently. And technical skills have no spectrum of right or wrong. I mean, well, they are not relative or subjective. They are absolutely the truth of whether you have the technical coding skills or not. But when it comes to non-technical roles, then you're looking for more behaviors and how the story is operating in the future rather than what the past has been for them. And that's true for even job seekers, Samir. Job seekers today don't strategize on the job search. They just say,
Yeah,
okay, I'm just going to throw at things, let me see what sticks. And I'm like,
yeah.
wait, how is this going to work? How are you going to show up? How are you going to be different from the crowd? How are you going to be that one different person that the recruiter will, hey, I actually see that in that person? How are you going to do that if you don't show up your story correctly, or if you don't showcase your story correctly? People will write on LinkedIn that it's so difficult to find a job. But when I say, okay, tell me what are the seven things that you've done, they don't get to three.
Hmm.
That's the thinking needs to come. You got to put that thinking in that process.
I'm going to connect it to what you said earlier as well, which you said, I'm looking for hunger, you said. And hunger is pretty obvious because everyone who's looking for a job is hungry for a job. But you're
Mm.
looking for something more than that.
Yep.
So, can you unpack what, or give an example of where you saw hunger and where you don't see hunger? Is it the deep work that they do to get the job, or having a future vision of what they want, or what is it? So,
It's
how do
it's
you
a mix of,
identify this hunger? Yeah.
and I'll give you an example to rightly point out that hunger part. That right. Um, so we ran a program for one of my past organizations, and this is 2012, 13. That's how old this program is to bring women back to work after a sabbatical or family break or whatever breaks that they had. They could have any break between 0 to 2 years, and we wanted to bring particularly the women back. And now the interviewer is saying, Javed, what do I interview them on? Right? That's where this got coined in my head at that point of time is look at hunger might not be the amazing term, but that's the only word I get is look at when you're sitting and interviewing, they might not be able to tell you what has happened in the industry or what kind of skills have evolved in the last 2 years because they were on a break. But look at how they can tell that story in how they can now come back to the workforce and be a part of that workforce which don't have a gap. See that hunger on how they can dive into various aspects. How much are they able to go? How far are they able to go? That's the kind of an hunger is what you need to evaluate for this kind of so one of the examples, and that's how that became very is like, okay, why do you need this job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like the previous manager, I want a new job. That's not an that's not a need for change of job, then that needs a change
Is
of a
the truth
manager.
in so many people's cases, right? But
Oh, Samir, I mean, I think I was in a conference and one of my friends at Spotify actually introduced me to it. You won't believe it. If you go to Google today and you just type the two words, my manager is, oh, the negativity you see on Google right now. There's not one positive in the drop downs. And I'm like, I don't know where these managers are or who these managers are because I've always been lucky to find great managers in my career.
uh, were they managers or leaders?
They were leaders, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I agree.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Managers are the one who messes things up.
I don't think I've ever had a. I mean, I had one manager, yes, but other than that, I had people who were my sponsors and
Yeah.
my yeah. But technically, on the internet or the intranet, I was showing as reporting to them, but they were more sponsors of mine, right? I have
Yeah.
been thrown in leadership meetings when they said, "Why should we come? You go. You manage it. You did it. You did the work. You did everything. Go learn how to manage that set of people." If they were managers, they would have said, "Okay, tell me what you've done, and I'll go tell everybody what you've done, or I have done and take the credit." And that's one more thing is leaders should never take credit for what their teams have done. They should just give the credit to the right people. That's something that I've always lived my life on. Is like even if I did what I did, I would say, hey, that team member did it, just to showcase what it is. And that's how my life changed as well as a as a reportee. There was a person that I didn't want to report to, and I was a rebel, right? Um, I just don't want to work with him. So the head of HR said, "You don't have a choice. Work with him, or you don't have to work with him. You can resign." And I'm like, yeah, yeah, resignation is not a good point. Let's just work with him right now. And then working with him, I was so difficult. I would never do things like Jav would do it. Like I would not be able to like go out of the way. One night, Samir, he said, Jav, these three offers need to go out. I said, sorry, I'm sleeping. I can't do it. I mean, that's never me, but I said that to him because I just didn't want to work with him. He stayed up that night and he rolled out those three offers. And next day morning on the review call, he says, Jav touched his target. The three offers were sent out last night. He did it. I didn't do it. Oh my God. That was that moment where it says selfless leadership is amazing. And that's how I have been following from that day on till today. Because he could have just said, Jav didn't do it, I did it, and he could have taken all the credit and gone. And I would have looked bad in a lot many things. But he didn't do it. I asked him a couple of years later why you didn't do it. He said, I wanted to win you. And I was like, yeah, yeah, you want me for life. So yeah, I've worked with leaders like that, Samir, and just been very fortunate.
I think there's a very important message out there, no? I mean, for leaders, one of the first things they have to do is win their team members.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless and until you're not winning, the people, a lot of people take it for granted that I'm the leader, they should report to me, they should obey me, they should take care of the things that I say. But winning your team members over requires a very different mindset.
Yeah. And you need to be ready to show up when it is difficult as well, right? I've always been in the situation where I've gone in as a leader to an organization and I've had reluctance from the current team members to work for me or report to me and so on and so forth. And I learned it because somebody had also made me learn this and says it's okay. Not everybody will love you the day one. You got to earn it. You got to make sure that you show up every day consistently for them to think about you as that person that they want to put their career and grow with you, right? So yeah, I mean, be it India, be it Dubai, be it Africa, I've faced that resistance, but small wins, consistently showing up, and being genuine of showing that we are doing this together for not me or you, but for the organization, will definitely take you the right places.
So far in our conversation, we have been touching so much on the human aspect, the human element, the co-creation, how we work with people, etc. And I can see this is a huge part of your way of being. And I'm curious to know what made you say yes to join this company, Tidy Hire, or start working with them and go down the route of AI and see where the world is going in this direction.
Mm, I'll tell you a funny story. um, AI is always my love. Tech has always been my love. I've been with IBM for about 14 plus years. The startup that I did, D360, was all tech. So tech is somehow inherently in me that I can understand tech. I can write a few lines of code. I can do all of that. So tech is definitely my first love when it comes to what I do. When I left KPMG in January, I was clear that February and March, I'm not going to do too much because Ramadan was also coming. And I said, I just want to rest a little. Hari, who is a co-founder of Tidy Hire, he also has few other products. He's been doing this for about 8 years, okay, and he's $1 million company in India itself. So it's not like a very brand new venture. So Hari, who's been co-founded, he had co-founded Param, one of the ATS products. I've always kept in touch with him. Hari used to report to me. That's how our connection has been from so many years. When Hari said, Javed, I want to take this product and I want to take this product with you to the Middle East. Can you come on board? That's how this journey started for me. And it was a no brainer because one, it was Hari, the product was ready. All I needed to work on was relevantizing the product to the industry and looking at it very differently. So I said, Hari, I'll come on board, but you'll have to take my feedback as well, like I used to. He says, yeah, 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 don't worry. I love you. Come on board. So that's pretty much happened. So, you know, my reportees have kept in touch. They've grown. Some people are leading organizations, multi-large organizations. Some are in Germany, some are in Netherlands. But even today, they call me and says, Javed, how can we do this? And can you work with us, or can you tell us how to do this? I think that is what made Tidy happen for me. Is like, one, I'm working with the right people, and I know who I'm working with, and I'm taking a new product to the market, and I know this talent space, and I know recruiting. So it was no brainer on how I went to Tidy.
Where do you see the future of HR jobs with tidy hire and solutions like this coming in place, there are a lot of people who are in HR functional roles who feel perhaps threatened by. And I say this because I feel AI is going to replace a lot of managers, but will not replace leaders, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of jobs are going to go away, perhaps, to AI tools like this. So, what do you see the future of HR jobs?
I think the function itself is going to look very different in about a year. And
Okay.
we're not even talking 5 years, right? In about a year, the function is going to look very different. Why? Because the HR will be able to do so much more um, that they are not able to do today. Why? Because today, any HR person that you talk to, I think one of the biggest burnouts or one of the biggest difficulties that they have is the time and effort it takes to complete a transaction, which is completely humanized, admin, Excel, blah, 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 right? So there's too much effort that goes in. Every day I would say, guys, what are we doing? Job, I've got 20 offers to roll out. I don't know how to do it. The function is going to look different when tech is going to start supporting them. For example, and we're doing this already in the industry, I can't name it because I've signed an NDA, is we've implemented an incoming call 24 bar 7 for every employee. The call is that comes to an HR partner, and the employee says, I need a letter, I need this, I need that, I need to understand the policy. 90% of the time, the HR person does not even need to answer it because the call, the agent itself answers that and completes the job. So you have just in time HR now, 24 bar 7. No more ticketing, emailing, and getting stuck in that email or the ticket jail. Is when did you send it? Okay, let me follow up. Let me see where it is. All that will go away. So the function itself is going to look very different. Every function. Learning is going to become hyper personalized on one, wherein now today you're putting a few people in classroom and maybe you touch everybody's persona by saying, did you learn something? But no. But if you give one AI coach to every single employee in the time that they want to learn, and what they want to learn is going to change the way learning is going to look like. Operations other than payroll, I think, is going to get automized completely. HR partners will have assistants, agents who can be available to their employees in any time. Now they can reinvent the way HR partners show up, not by just doing town halls or engagement or pulse surveys or so on and so forth. They can do so much more. Recruitment is where the biggest disruption is going to happen. So what I'm telling HR today is, yes, you've got 20 years of HR experience, but what the next 5 years? How are you reinventing with the help of tech? How are you reinventing yourself for the organization that you're going to work? Don't wait for your CEO, CFO to come and tell you that you got to do or you got to use tech. Today, you say, how can I use tech? Go to your CFO or CEO and say, listen, I think we need the tech in this area, and I'm going to take this project. I'm going to anchor this project and do it for the organization. That's how HR need to show up, and this is how the disruption is going to look like for the function is going to entirely change, and the team size will reduce. Today, if an organization has an average of 20 member team member across the function, it might become a 10 member because the automation or the tech will help do the other 10 people's job in much lesser cost.
Yeah, it's going to be about new value creations. Here's another question from one of the LinkedIn users, which says, "How do you answer leaders who say HR and L&D is just a support function and it's a mere operational cost, which doesn't bring any revenue, right?" And you're laughing, I'm sure, because you've heard this so many times in the past.
I mean, yeah, been there, done that kind of a thing, right? So, and it's just not HR and L&D. I think every function is seen as a support function. Is the way we show up. I mean, simple as that, right? Um, until unless you understand, and I'm not saying everybody should do it, but how my perception of HR changed is in my career, 2019 to 2020, I delivered projects for external clients as a consultant. I did external consulting, delivered projects. Now, what that threw me is when I became business or when I became the consultant for the company that I was working, I suddenly had a KPI of how to make money for the company.
Hmm.
Right? Short story, on that part is when I came back to HR, now my mind was thinking, how do I now go showcase? How do I make money for you, though being in HR, right?
Hmm.
One example is when I joined my previous organization, one of the biggest cry item was we don't have enough people. That's the common statement. So I didn't go to the organization and my leadership and says, I'm going to change it. I'm going to put KPIs. I'm going to bring down the time to hire. I'm going to bring down this. That KPIs are good solace for HR leaders. I went to them and I said, we're going to solve that one problem is having people to bill to the clients that they need to deliver. And I will make sure that every team is billable and availability is going to be there. We'll create a bench, whatever that needs to be done. So that's the problem we're solving. And then I went and said to my HR leader, I need three recruiters and I'm going to save 4 million dirhams. That's the conversation that needs to happen. No longer I'm going to go ahead and reduce the time to hire from 100 to 90 days. What? That's an average. How does it help an organization? Because some graduates you might hire in 10 days and some senior hires you might hire in 150 days. And when you average it out, it'll come to the 90-day. I'm just giving an example hypothetically. How did it help the organization? The senior hire who was supposed to bring the money still came in 150 days. That's a lot of loss of money for the organization. So that's how you got to look at it. You got to show up and say, I will help make the money in the right places and I will focus on it. Consulting is one big example. My boss would always say, listen, I lost so much money just because we didn't have people to bill. That conversation has to now become a part of talent acquisition. I will give you people so you can bill and you can make your money. And obviously, then you'll have all the other problems get solved as well. That's how you got HR needs to show up. Other than that, we'll always be an order taker, right? Javed, go run a women's special event. Why? We've had 27%, 28%. Why do you want me to run? No. I don't want to go do that. You have to have the understanding of what the business is going to do. I'll give you one more example. Just came up to my mind. I had a very senior partner who wanted to hire an manager. Okay. And I said, okay, let me go talk. He had already sent the JD. My team had already opened the requisition. And in my head, I'm thinking he doesn't need a manager. So I went to him and I said, why are you hiring a manager? The billing per hour is going to be $120. Hire one AM and give more opportunity to the other manager that is available. You'll at least make some profit on that margin. Oh, yeah, get me an AM. That's the conversation HR needs to have now. You got to understand, you got to have the business acumen for what you're doing. Only then people will think about it as and it can convert to any conversation. We need to train our people on soft skills or whatever. Why? Everybody knows what soft skills is. We need to train people on the technical aspects of how do they make more money.
Hmm.
Why is L&D not talking that? Why is L&D just doing trainings on soft skills or not soft skills or whatever, right? That's the kind of thinking HR leaders need to have is how do I save money for the organization in the job I'm doing? That could be more people, more billing, more trainings in a lesser time, whatever that could be where people can go out and bring more money for the organization. In turn, you get successful. You cannot get a seat on the table in the senior leadership team until unless you understand how the business operates or how the business is making money. Start there and then convert that into your vertical.
But what about these HR managers who are sitting at a rung where they don't get exposed to what the business is, they don't get to speak to people who are in business, and someone who's really hungry to grow but doesn't have the opportunity within the organization to have those kind of business conversations? They're
Give me an
with
example. Steve. Why do you think people might not have access to their business leaders? Just
uh,
when you're sitting somewhere, that's the example I just to put the thought perspective. Because most of the HR sit with the business teams only, or the same floor or the same building, right?
yeah.
Until unless it's a shared service center, which is completely offsite, they don't need to. They will always be a support function, right? But if you are an HR partner, right, which is what you have to sit with your business and not in the common HR room, because you are an HR partner for that business and that vertical, you need to take it upon you to go sit with the right person to say, hey, can you take 15 minutes and help me learn about what you're doing? They're not going to come and tell you. They've got a job to manage,
Hmm.
right? So other than the HR operations and payroll, my firm belief is that every HR person should sit with their business that they're managing. Simple. The factory model of operating model of I will be a sourcer, I will be a coordinator, I will be only the person of rolling out an offer, that model might not work for every organization. That's a shared services model which can sit in shared services in an offshore country. But if you are in Dubai, Middle East, and you're a client facing role, sit with your clients and learn what they're doing.
Mhm.
Samir, when IBM did an project for a 10-year-old project, um, they wanted me to sit with them from the day one they made the proposal, because the proposal winning was completely dependent on having that 200, 300 people who could deliver the project. Right, for me that was a learning, and nobody invited me. I said, can I come to the client meeting, can I sit with the client so that I can understand that? And they said, yeah, yeah, come, no problem, you can just sit at the back and listen to what's happening. But if I wouldn't have asked and I said, give me a JD for the SAP 200 people you need, I would have hired the SAP people, but I don't know how, when, and how that would have actually landed with the business. So for me, it's also good to tell your team, listen, guys, I was with the leadership today. I worked with the leadership team. They're working on a project. This is how much money we're going to make with the project. This is the delivery of the project. This is how much we need. Now, I need you to guys to say, how can we reduce the time to hire in from 60 days to 40 days?
Yeah.
You've got to ask this question. You got to show up. You got, and I don't think every manager, every leader would like to talk about how they make money. It's like an ego thing for them. They want to showcase. So when you go and say, I want to learn, I don't think anybody's going to say, what will be the worst? Not now, come later. Fine, I'll reschedule and come back. But
Yeah.
go again.
Yeah. Understanding the business is very key, right? So
Oh, 100%.
people feel like I'm in a job, I don't have to think of the business. That's not my job. And when you think that that's not my job is when it doesn't become your job anymore, and you don't get promoted, and you hit a ceiling, and you don't grow, you don't get a
Yeah.
seat at the table. I can't believe it's almost an hour over here. We're just getting started. And but I have a few comments over here before I ask my one or two questions. Priscilla
Okay.
is sharing, well said, Javed, you can't play the same playbook, gig economies, employer driven markets, and adaptability in playbooks. Thanks for sharing. We
You?
had someone, a friend of yours, I think, Hari
Yeah, yeah.
Krishna.
Co-founder. Very higher.
We are super proud to have you on our side. Um, yes. So, moving towards the closing, unfortunately, because of time, uh,
Mhm.
but not because I don't want to have more conversations. We'll definitely have more conversations and probably do another one of these.
Yep.
Uh, what's a clarity you wished you had much earlier in life when you were
Hmm.
starting off?
I have always been tagged as emotional at my workplace. Um, and I would take that feedback really to the heart. Like I would like go into a shell, and it would create a lot of imposter syndromes for me. Today I say, so what if I'm emotional? This job needs to be emotional. Emotion is part of it by saying, how can you do a job without keeping, I mean, 8, 9 hours of your day, you're at workplace. How can you switch off emotions at that point of time, right? So I think that clarity is coming, but I mean, I'm like not emotionally immature. I hope I'm not. But what I'm trying to say is, it's okay to bring the emotions to the workplace. It's okay to be vulnerable. Um, on the floor, when my boss in my previous company left, we hugged each other and we cried and cried and cried for about 10 minutes. It's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a leader or a manager or anything else. You've got to have those emotions, and that clarity is coming to me now. Is I'm not going to switch off the self doubt. I'm not going to switch off that emotion. I've made it my friend to help me restructure on the way I show up. Yeah, these two things have become more clearer as I've matured.
Yeah, and that's what they call EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. When you are using emotion to serve your needs rather than drain yourself.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Uh, Last question,
Okay.
and this is the cheeky one. What is a
Okay.
question that I should have asked which I didn't ask you so far?
Um, I mean, I think every one of us have this. I think one of the questions every leader, manager wanting to become a leader is simple. When you get promoted, you cannot show up as the same person into your new role. You have to sit and reflect on how am I doing the new role differently, because you can't be manager, become a senior manager and continue doing the same thing, because then from a senior manager to director, the longer it will take. When you're a senior manager, you should start showing up as a director, only then you'll be ready for the next job, right?
Hmm.
That's one part of it that I think most of the times, and I've actually said this to my leaders, right? When I joined IBM, Samir, in 2005 2006, I joined as a coordinator at the very bottom of the pyramid, right? And I grew every year. I had a promotion and I grew, and I was hitting all India operations for IBM by the end of 2012. That's about 6 years. But my managers always thought me as a coordinator, yeah. And I actually had to go up and say, listen, I know you hired me 6 years back as a coordinator, but I've grown. So start treating me differently, right? And you got to help. You definitely, and they're like, but Jav, you're like the same kid that we hired. No, I'm not the same kid. I'm changing. But if you're seeing me that way, then I need to do things differently so that you look at me as a leader as well. So if I wouldn't have, then I wouldn't have been where I am, right? That's one thing. Imposter syndrome and self doubt, don't make it your weakness, make it your strength. um,
How do you do that?
Self reflect every day. When you have that doubt of did I do this well, ask yourself how could have you done more better, rather than doubting what you're doing or how you showed up, right? So make that your friend. It goes hand in hand with your confidence. So you got to definitely look at that as a friend rather than a foe.
And what is the role mentors have played in your life when you connected to that in the journey of imposter syndrome?
When I went with that imposter syndrome, when I had any project given to me, even Dubai for that matter, when Dubai happened, I was like, am I ready? Why are you sending me? There are all the other people in the organization who you could send to Dubai. Why are you sending me on assignment? He said, Jam, nobody else can do this better than you do. We trust you. Go. And I went. And then you know the story of what happened in the first year I came here, right? But yeah, we'll not tell that to our audience.
That is what Nadeem has mentioned over here. He said this should be extended Samir 2.0. Yeah,
Inshallah, Nadeem. We'll do another 2.0 for sure.
great insights. Gautam over here, invaluable insights. Javed, great questions. We've had Gulam also mention it's important to prioritize your well-being so that we can serve others better. Uh,
Yes,
answered
100%.
all of them. Yeah. Javed, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
It
so
is.
much. Yes, so much of learning, so much of takeaways, so much to realize that our journeys don't start when we become a manager. It's just the beginning of the journey where there's so much to go ahead with, recognizing that uh, not to carry the water that does not belong to us. Let others carry their own water so that we can do what only we can do, and they allow them to do only what they can do. So when each one does what we are doing best, life becomes great. Always a pleasure. Always
All
so
right.
much learning.
No, thank you for having me, Samir. And I think you and I have a lot of conversations which help a lot. So don't stop helping people ask the questions. That's what clarity brings, right? You are doing something amazing. So great stuff. Thank you. And I know I'll keep bugging you for intellectual conversations.
All right. Thank
Take
you.
care. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care, please.
Thank you. Thank you for all the questions, everything. Thank you. Bye.